The year is 1987, and the console, the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is where it all began for Mega Man. Of course, if you lived in North America at the time, then it was a little bit more like this. Okay, so Mega Man's jump onto the video gaming scene didn't exactly make a huge splash, but it did make its mark, and 20 years later, we still love the Blue Bomber. In the late 1980s, platforming action games were gaining popularity thanks to the success of Nintendo's Super Mario Bros. Capcom set out to tackle this formula with some interesting innovations. For starters, any of Mega Man's initial 6 stages could be selected in any order the player wished, which allowed each of the stages to have unique and varied obstacles, as opposed to a linear game where the stages get progressively more challenging. This approach also allowed for some additional strategy, as Mega Man would acquire the weapon of a fallen robot master. Having a certain weapon with which to conquer a stage or wield against a certain boss could make the adventure a whole lot easier. Of course, that's not to say Mega Man wasn't a challenging game. To be honest, it could be downright infuriating at times. Later Mega Man games would introduce elements in order to ease the game's difficulty, which are taken for granted today. These include a password system to pick up where you left off, energy tanks you could collect and use to heal yourself as needed, and added abilities, such as sliding and charging your main weapon, the Mega Buster, for a more powerful shot. The original Mega Man, however, has none of these, leaving the player on their own. Good luck! Compared to other platforming games of the time, Mega Man featured fairly versatile but tight controls. The little guy can run, shoot, jump, and climb ladders. And while most video game characters had fairly long, floaty jumping abilities, Mega Man's jumping was fairly short and sharp. Making jumps and avoiding enemies required sharp reflexes and the ability to quickly judge hazards as you came upon them. Mega Man also featured fairly detailed graphics for its day. While many video games of the time still had fairly blocky and ambiguous graphics, the character sprites in Mega Man were sharply outlined and brightly colored. In fact, you might even say Mega Man was more expressive than most heroes of the day. Mega Man also featured a diverse selection of enemy characters, including some that were quite enormous for the time. On the audio side, Mega Man had fitting sound effects for its theme, and some very memorable music. Much of the music from the original Mega Man has been featured repeatedly in later titles, not to mention having been arranged countless times by fans of music from the series. Where the story is concerned, the game centers around Rock, the android creation of Dr. Lights who, along with his sister Roll, serve as his assistant and housekeeping robots, respectively, and in another sense, as his children. Dr. Light also created 6 industrial robots made to help better mankind: Cutman, Gutsman, Iceman, Bombman, Fireman, and Elecman. But Dr. Wily, an old academic rival who is shunned due to Dr. Light's constant successes over him, steals Dr. Light's industrial robots and turns them into battle machines in his bid for recognition and world domination. Rock volunteers to be transformed into a battle robot himself so he can put an end to Dr. Wily's scheme, and is thus reborn as Mega Man. However, the North American storyline featured some variations of the plot, such as the setting being a city known as Monsteropolis, and Dr. Light and Dr. Wily being partners. While Capcom employee Keiji Inafune is generally considered to be the father of Mega Man, the idea for the Mega Man character had already been invented when Inafune first joined Capcom. In fact, the first character Inafune himself designed was Elecman, who to this day remains his favorite robot master. Joining Capcom as a graphic designer, Inafune did a lot of the visual-related duties in the first Mega Man game, including all of the artwork, logos, box art, manual, and even a lot of the game's pixel graphics. Working so closely in the game's development, it's easy to see how Inafune has a big place in his heart for Mega Man, and how he's managed to take Mega Man so far today. From this game, Mega Man takes off to become one of the most revisited franchises in video game history. Join us next week when we cover a labor of love and one of the most popular installments in the franchise's history, Mega Man 2.